And I just remember, I'm like, part of me just has to walk out the worst case scenario. Like, I just have to go there. I have to really feel it. I have to embrace it and just be like, okay. And I just remember telling the Lord, you know, as I'm in the chapel now, I'm like looking up. I'm like, okay, God, you said if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can do all these amazing things. And like, I'm not really sure my faith is even as big as that. I'm pretty sure that my faith might be smaller than that. But if you'll take what I have, I'll give it to you. If you'll take this little bit, you can have it. I said, I just don't want to lose her. I'm just asking that you let me keep her. And I think in that moment, and then I just...
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Higher Pursuit podcast. We are so glad that you joined us. If you're looking for content that will encourage you, that will build you up in your pursuit of Jesus, and sometimes challenge you just a little bit, then stay tuned because you are in the right place. Well, if you're new here, the series that we're in right now is called Repurposing Our Pain, and that's based on my book, Repurpose Your Pain, which is available on Amazon and all the places. So today I am joined by a wonderful, very special guest to me, my firstborn, my beautiful daughter, Ashley Hawkins. And Ashley is a born and raised New Englander, as am I. We haven't gotten out much. Haven't lived anywhere else but right here in the land of the frozen chosen. She and her husband, Matt, have been married for 17 years this June. I cannot even believe it. And oh my gosh, I can't even believe it. It was like yesterday that we were getting your wedding dress, and in the meantime, she graduated from nursing school and then worked as a nurse for 9 years. And she comes from a really large family, which I can attest to. You've probably heard me talk about having blended a family with 6 children. It was a lot. And she was the oldest. And the most she had a lot put on her plate as the oldest of 6. But she didn't shy away from a large household because she went on to have 4 children herself. She has a son and 3 daughters ranging in age from 6 to 5 months old. And Ashley will attest that being a mom is the greatest gift that God has given her. And that's actually another podcast I think that I need to have her on for is her story of the waiting and the enduring and hanging on to God's promise that she would have children because there was a battle to get there. But that's another story. Her kids are, yeah, exactly. And so she and her husband they manage investment properties. And while he handles the face-to-face interactions, she's the back office and accounting. Although you will often find Ashley with a drill in her hand. She's great at a bunch of different things. She repairs plumbing and door lock changes and heating system troubleshooting. And unfortunately, having to do some of the legal stuff that goes with being a landlord. So she's carrying a lot, but so now I'm going to ask you, Ashley, if your life was a movie. This is our little icebreaker question that I usually like to start off the podcast with. If your life was a movie, what would that title be? And who would you like to play you in the movie? I don't know if you thought about that, but.
So I've always thought different things. I'm always oh, I don't know. I always go back to my high school self. That's it would be the most beautiful past. But I think I just realized that my life movie would be Counting My Blessings.
Awesome.
And I think I just keep going back to my great grandma Helen and just that when she used to sing that song, count your many blessings, list them one by one. And I think every time in life when I've had a challenge, it's been counting my blessings. And that has gotten me through that tough part and moving on to the next. So I think it would be Counting My Blessings would be my movie title.
Nice. And who's going to play you?
So who's going to play me? I think that feels so hard to be this is who I'd want to play me. But I think I look maybe a little bit closer to Rachel McAdams or what was I thinking? Maybe even Anne Hathaway, but if I think the actress that plays people the best is Jessica Chastain. I think when she plays a real life person, she nails it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All the feels, everything.
Oh, she nails it. Like, I love when she plays somebody, but like, we don't like look alike or anything, but she's awesome at that.
She is. She absolutely is. That's so cool.
So those are my people.
Count your blessings, count your many blessings. That is awesome. And in the challenges of life, because life always gives us challenges, that really is the best frame of mind to have, because we always have a choice about what we're going to focus on. And where we focus will change our attitude, and eventually our attitude will change our atmosphere. But focusing on the wrong thing isn't going to change the circumstances. And I think that's the thing that we fall into thinking, don't you think?
Yeah.
That if I just focus on the negative, that somehow focusing on it is going to fix it or change something.
Yeah.
But it never does.
Part of my personal, I guess, soapbox right now is when people are focusing on their trauma, or this was my trauma or my whatever. And I'm like, while I do think there's a space to say, I had this hurt.
Yes.
And we need to address it so we can move on. But how much are you putting it under the blood? How much are you giving it back to the Lord? How much are you just saying that happened? But look at all the amazing things that's happened in my life. Look at all the blessings I have in my life. And I think you can look through a lens of negativity, or you can look through the lens of positivity and actually thanking the Lord for what has happened or what you do have. I may not have this or that, or I may have gone through XYZ, but these are what I do have, or what I have, the good things it has done. And I think it reframes everything. But
yes. Well, and it's interesting you say that, because, in writing the book, Repurpose Your Pain, that's really why I wrote it, because I noticed that there were so many people that were stuck in their pain. They were either rehearsing it, so talking about it all the time, unable to move past it, or they were repressing it.
Yeah.
And neither one of those is good.
Nope.
And so in repurposing our pain, we're actually going to acknowledge the pain, yes, but then we're going to bring truth to the pain. And then we're going to do the work of repurposing it. Why? Because we need to move past it.
Yes.
God needs us to be healthy and whole.
Yes.
He needs his army not to be thousands of wounded warriors that are constantly regurgitating all the terrible things we've been through. We need to be whole and strong.
Yes.
But pretending that something didn't happen isn't the answer. And neither is constantly going around and around that mountain.
Agreed.
So anyway, Ashley, let's get to the topic that you're going to be sharing on today, which is repurposing your fear. And you went through a circumstance that I think is going to blow a lot of minds, and it's going to really touch a lot of hearts. So I'm not going to say anything more. I want you to just share your story, give the details, girl, because they're important.
Well, this, I guess, mostly happened in 2021 and 2022. So in April of 2021, I gave birth to my third child, my second daughter, Eliana. And it's funny, as we were going to name her, like, I just kind of started researching names, and I love the name Eliana. I just felt like this was like zap. And her name means the Lord has answered. The Lord has answered. And I just felt like this connection in my womb. And I was like, oh, gosh, I think that's her name. But that comes in later. So I gave birth to her. It was kind of an interesting birth. Like, maybe I went to the hospital. Maybe I almost touched heaven, but
scary for me as your mom. I was there that day, and it was.
Yes. I've never seen you so scared ever. And even my husband, I've never seen him scared, ever. I've never seen Matt scared. And I could see him looking over me, like being like, but anyway, that's a totally different story as well. And we're fine. But so we came out of that. Eliana's like a few weeks old, and I got a call in the beginning of May, and it was from you. And you're like, hey, Ashley Page, your dad died. And I was like, what? And I was like, what are you talking about? And I think I just went into this tailspin. I was like, you're kidding. Like, my dad couldn't have died. I just saw him a couple weeks ago. I'm like, that's impossible. Like, he was just here. Like, he was fine. And my dad lives in a few states away. So, or he lives like, multiple states away. So I couldn't like go or verify. I felt very trapped. And like the whole family's calling each other, and my dad just died unexpectedly. Like, my stepbrother had basically walked in and just found him on the couch, and like that was that. And so we had no explanation for that. So I kind of had this like unexpected birth that didn't go well. My father just died unexpectedly.
Right. Hi, everybody. While I hate to interrupt a good discussion, I do want to tell you about my book, Repurpose Your Pain, Moving from Pain to Purpose and from Instability to Firm Faith. In the book, I share 10 pain points that are common to most people, and I share my personal stories, my experiences with those pain points, and how I repurposed that pain. Then we dive into what the Word of God has to say about how we repurpose that pain. You need to know that this book is really 2 books in one, because it includes workbook activations to help you apply the truth that you've learned to your life. So grab your copy today on Amazon, Christian book distributors, or any place books are sold.
And then a couple months after that, you had COVID, and but I was starting Sam off in preschool, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be so sweet. Like, Sam's going to be in preschool, and then I'm going to have time with just my 2 girls. But even just thinking about Bryn, I was like, babies sleep a lot. And then Bryn and I will get some really special time together because, I think moms know when they have more kids, you don't get as much time individually. And Sam got so much time. And then I was like, okay, I'll just get some time with her. It'll be so great. And he'll be in preschool. And then the second day of preschool, so it was like 3 days after he started, I looked down at Ellie Bean, and I'm having my special day with Brittany, and we did our nails, we got lunch, and as I'm sitting eating lunch, I look over, and Eliana was usually very upset in her car seat, like she just didn't want to be in there very long, and she's just laying there the whole lunch, and like just like staring off, and I remember looking at her and being like, ugh. You don't look right. Like, you just look like I think you're getting sick. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're getting sick. And she just laid there, and I was like, okay. And then the day continues and whatever. And I was nursing her, and I actually took a picture of her nursing because I was going to send it to you and be like, does she look funny to you? Like, I think she looks yellow. And I was about to say, text it to you and be like, does she look funny? And Matt went off to his physical therapy appointment. And right as I was kind of about to text that picture, she just like pulls off and like projectile vomits all over me.
So frame out, I'm not sure if we mentioned exactly how old Eliana is at this time.
Sorry. Eliana is 4 months old.
Okay.
So she's 4 months old. She's about to turn 5 months old, but she's 4 months old. And, little tiny, and like she projectile vomits all over me, which she had never even spit up before. Like, she just didn't spit up, and I was like, that's weird. And even as I'm saying, oh, that's weird, what made it alarming is that she just kind of like was like, ugh, and like wilting, and I'm like, and moms have a gut, and then my alarm bells were going off, and I was just like, oh, nah, something's wrong. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, she got COVID. My mom just had COVID. She must have gotten COVID. She got COVID. And I was like, but all of us are fine. I'm like, I don't know. And we were well out of our exposure window with you, but that's the only thing I could think of for a baby is that she must have had a virus that's COVID. Sure. And so I called Matt and I said, I think I need you to come home. I'm going to have to take Eliana to urgent care. And he goes, okay, I'm on my way back. And as he's driving back, which was a couple minutes, she like pukes again and like gets even more like wilty. And I was like, I actually think I'm going to go right to the emergency department. I'm not going to go to urgent care. Yeah. And Matt comes home, and I luckily thought enough of changing my clothes because I had vomit all over me. And change my clothes and get out the door. And I walk into Wentworth Douglas. And as I'm checking in at the triage station, like I'm just checking in, the triage nurse comes right out and he goes, I do not like the look of that baby. He goes, I'm finishing triaging an 18-month-old right now. You're next. And I like sit down, and even in the 5 minutes like, she's just like, I feel her just kind of wilting on me a little bit. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, okay, something is not right.
Yeah.
And we go, and the triage nurse takes her vitals, and me being a nurse, I was like, those are way off, like not okay, way off. And he's like, okay, go have a seat in the waiting room. We'll be right with you. And within, I think, 3 minutes of sitting in the waiting room, he took me right out back, took me right into a room. And as I walk into the room, I know most people that have gone to the ED, you walk into a room and you wait for the doc and you wait for everybody. Right. Everybody was there. There were like 3 nurses, the ED doc, and everybody was like in the room, hooking her up, doing IV, like doing all the things. And the doc is like looking at her immediately. And I was like, oh,
this is a big deal.
This is a bigger deal. I started to have a moment where I'm like, oh, this is a bigger deal if everybody's already right here and triaging her and doing things. And her blood work came back that she had like a white count that was astronomically high. I won't bore people with the numbers, but it was astronomically high. They had to shut off the sound on the alarm on the monitors because she was just alarming everything. And she was just getting really like listless in my arms.
Wow.
But anytime they'd examine her, she'd freak. And I quickly realized it wasn't a virus because every time they touched her belly, like she'd like, and freak out. And I was like, oh, okay. So the ED docs, I'm going to get an x-ray. We got the x-ray. And then he goes, I still want one of our pediatric doctors that we contract with to come see her. I luckily have, because I worked on the labor and delivery unit upstairs for a short bit, knew this pediatric doctor and he knew me. So he comes in, he goes, oh, hey, Ashley. He goes, I've worked with you, haven't I? I said, oh, yes, I did. And so he goes, okay, so we can just like have a conversation. And then he goes, I'm not necessarily sure we need to transport you. We'll see what happens. But then he's like, I do want to check at the x-ray because after he examined her, he kind of like got a little more concerned. And then he goes, checks the x-ray and he comes in, he goes, okay, you're a nurse. You know what you're looking at. Come to the monitor and look with this with me. And I was like, okay. And as he pulls up the screen, I can immediately see that the whole right side of my daughter's abdomen is just white.
Wow. And what does that mean?
It should not be white. You should have black patches where there's air, fluid. Your bowels kind of have patches of white because you have patches of poop in you and whatever, but you should have gas patterns as well, which is like, you should be able to see a lot of different black and white. It shouldn't be a solid opaque. Usually solid opaque is like something solid, not good. So he goes, I'm thinking, he goes, what I felt is that, he goes, I felt something on her kidney. He goes, I see this x-ray. He goes, it makes me believe that she has a tumor. And he goes, I really think she has a pretty good tumor on her kidney. He goes, the good news is, he goes, most kidney tumors, he goes, there's like 2 types of kidney tumors for peds. He goes, and they both are really high cure rates. He goes, and I hope I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong and not have one. He goes, but I'm going to send you to Boston right now. For some that don't know, Boston is about an hour drive from us, but it's like the leading medical hub.
Right.
So he's like, I'm going to send you to Boston. And I was like, oh, whoa. So I'm like texting my husband, like, okay, I am going to be going to Boston in like 5 minutes. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Her car seat's here. She's going by stretcher in an ambulance. And I'm like, okay, well, my van's here. Matt's going to need my van. And I'm like, okay.
Right.
I'm like, can I leave my keys so that my husband can pick up my van? And like, I don't know. And I was texting my friend Marsha and I was like, so I'm kind of getting transferred to Boston, like right now I text her the next morning, but I don't even know what's going on. And we get into Boston and I just remember the whole ride down is my little teeny baby in this massive stretcher. She just looks so pitiful and sad. And she has all of these things running through her. And I was just being like, this is so weird and surreal and what is happening. And like, I thought it was COVID and now we have a tumor and I don't know. And then as we're like pulling, there's a ramp in Mass General to go into the basement where all the ambulances go. And I just remember as they're pulling into the basement, I'm like, it begins. So this begins like this next really big journey. Okay. Ooh, and it's, late and you're tired, but we check into the ED and they got us a CAT scan. We got all the things. We finally get up to the room at 3 a.m. And the doctors do this, same thing. And then we just started this week of nightmare where my daughter's labs all looked horrendous. She could barely move. She was in so much pain. It's like I could nurse her in one position, but it would hurt her so much to really do anything. And her blood pressure was through the roof. It was just astronomically through the roof. So we're seeing nephrologists, oncologists, surgeons. They come in all the time with all of these massive teams of people because it's a teaching hospital. So the surgeon comes in with no less than 10 people. And you're trying to talk to your surgeon and everyone else is there. And you're like, okay, hi. And for everything. And it was so stressful because she, of course, did this collapse Labor Day weekend. And for people in the medical community, nothing happens on a holiday weekend.
Yeah.
Anesthesia doesn't have to be there. They were not there. MRIs usually don't happen, and all the oncologists and surgeons are saying we need the MRI before I can schedule anything. So it was like a weekend, and I'm asking people to pray. I'm like, I need a miracle to get this MRI done so she can have surgery so we can get this out of her body because she was really decompensating, and it just felt like it will go really poorly if I don't get this surgery done.
Yeah. And
luckily her surgeon was push some boundaries and push some things. And on Labor Day, a pediatric anesthesiologist comes in and we got the MRI and we got everything. And it kind of went from a little tumor to realizing it's the size of a softball. It was very close to her main artery and vein, which if it had touched that, then we would have had her prognosis probably would have been almost 0. But it was but it was right there. And we were able to get her into surgery on Tuesday. That was probably the longest day of my life. And Matt and I walking around Boston and we're just trying to keep ourselves busy, getting the call from the surgeon that the surgery ended up going way longer than it was supposed to.
Right.
What first we're thinking this is what's called a Wilms tumor, super high success rate, easy. We knew she was going to lose her kidney, but it didn't seem it was going to be a long surgery. And all of this time we found out that she had mets to her liver and to her ribs. And again, even stage 4 Wilms has an 86% cure rate. So we're okay, even though she has mets, even though it's stage 4, there's a good chance that she'll be fine.
So for people who don't know what mets are, can you describe what that is a term for?
Sorry. It's metastatic disease where the cancer has traveled to different parts of the body and is now growing in different parts of the body. And she had it growing on her liver and I think 4 or 5 spots on her ribs. I think it's 4. 4 spots on her ribs, which usually lowers your rate of cure rate because when it's traveled, now there's so much more to it. But again, we're still seeing a high prognosis, a high success rate. So we're okay. And, I know we had a lot of people praying for us. We were built up in faith and we're just, I'm not going to go to panic town until someone tells me I need to go to panic town. I just am not doing it. And, we had the surgery. Seeing her in recovery, I think was one of the best moments of my life, just being able to touch her. I just held her hand, and you're not allowed to really wake them up too much, but this little girl, then she comes out and her incision goes from on her belly. This is her belly button. It goes all the way past her belly button. You see your little girl. She's got the big port in now, this little baby. Oh, you're oh, but she instantly, her vitals were so much better. Her blood pressure was down. Her heart rate was down. Everything was down. So even though she had a massive surgery, which surgical pain does not feel good, her body was better. And she woke up the next day, like laughing and smiling at me. I took pictures and sent it to Matt. I'm like, we're having a great morning, Daddy. And and we're having a great time.
So at this point, you must be feeling like, all right, the worst is behind us. We're out of the woods.
The worst is behind us.
She's already bouncing back.
Yeah. And like, I know we have to do chemo, but it's not going to be crazy aggressive chemo, and it'll be fine. And it'll be fine. And so I'm thinking, oh, it's going to be fine. And then Gordon, my brother, lives in Mansfield, which I don't know how it's far from Boston, but it's not right around the corner from Boston. And he calls me and he's like, hey, I'm going to make you dinner tonight. What do you like to eat? And he brought me dinner. Him and Stevie, his wife, bring me dinner with Gianna. Like, poor Gianna is the same age as Ellie Bean. She's 1 month younger than Ellie Bean. Or 2 months younger than Ellie Bean. So like they take this little baby out and like drive her to God knows. They bring me dinner and I'm telling them, I'm like, oh yeah, well she's doing so much better. And they're like, we're really sorry you're going through this. I'm like, but you know what? It's great. Like Wilms tumor has a high success rate. It looks really good. I said, I'm really not worried about it. We're going to do great. And they're like, oh, that's awesome. So happy to hear it for you. Awesome. And I go up, I eat my delicious dinner. It was really good. They're great cooks. And as I'm sitting there, I'm like, the oncologist comes in, one of the oncologists comes in, he's like, hey, we got the pathology results on Eliana. And I'm like, oh wow, we weren't expecting pathology for like a week or more. And so I was like, oh, whoa, cool. So I call Matt. And Matt was coming back from saving my other brother from having run out of gas. Him and the 2 kids had just helped Uncle Noah. But so Matt pulls the car over, gets out so he can talk to me. And the oncologist just goes, he's like, so we got the pathology back on her cancer and it's not a Wilms. He goes, it's actually a very rare, very aggressive cancer called a malignant rhabdoid tumor. And I just remember being like, and at first it like, I don't think it like really sunk in, but I do know that the rest of this conversation is blurry. So I think I was like,
in shock. Yeah.
He's like, and it has just like a really low success rate. Usually, most kids die within a few months of being diagnosed. And he went through the logistics of, he goes, sometimes this main sites are in the kidney or in the brain. And he goes, so we do need to do a brain MRI, make sure it's not in her brain. And I think those are the only things I really remember other than just being like, and I think all my optimism, all my like, this is going to be fine. All the wind just went out of my sails. And then I had no more energy to have faith. I had nothing left in the tank. I was gassed and he left. I hung up with Matt. Like I couldn't really even talk to him. I don't think we could really talk to each other. I think we were both just like, okay. And I don't know. I couldn't see his face, but I do know that I think just in his voice, he was just okay. And he was like, no, God's got this. And I'm like, sure. I'm not going to rain on your faith parade, but I don't have it. Yeah. And he was texting me after we hung up and he's like, Ash, God's got this. It's going to be okay. God's got her. And I'm just like, deep down, I believe that, but I'm not there at the moment.
Yes.
I'm not there. And I'm the one looking at her daughter.
Yes.
And I can't even look at her. I was like, seeing her face is killing me. And I'm nursing at this moment. So like she's getting everything from me. And as I'm like holding her and nursing her, I'm like, I can't even do this. Like, it was like, I can't even nurse you. This is so horrible. And I just remember I told the nurse, I was like, I just got to take a walk. And luckily she went to sleep because she was just catching up on a lot of sleep. So she went to sleep. And I just took a walk and I was like, I need somewhere where I can like cry, but not be like in the middle of Mass General, like crying. And I was like, oh, every hospital has a chapel. I'm like, I'm going to go to the chapel. And usually no one goes to the chapel. So I like went to the chapel and I'm like looking up and I'm just crying. And I'm just like, I just remember the only thing I could see, the only thing I could picture was her dying. And before I had done this, I'd called you, and
I remember that.
I called you first, and you said, "Hey, Ashley Page, what's up?" Or you said, "How you doing?" And I said, "Not good." And I just knew, like, I just broke. And you're like, "Oh no, what happened?" And I just was like, "I'm gonna lose her." I was like, "I'm gonna lose my baby."
I'll never forget that. I had stepped outside for some reason. I think there was like somebody was over or the television was on or something. And I saw your call, and I just knew to step outside and step on our front porch. And you said, "I'm not okay." Yeah. And you started telling me, I'm going to lose her. And the support of my legs went out from underneath me. I've never, you hear people say, "Oh, my knees buckled." I've never had that happen to me before. And I just like fell on the ground, and my husband opened the door to see, because he saw the look on my face, and then he saw me on the ground, and he was like, "What is happening?" And I'm like, I can't even
portray all this right now.
Yes. And I'm like, this isn't something I can relay. Don't ask me what's going on right now, because obviously I'm on the ground. That was a very hard call.
Yeah, that was a tough one, but I knew I needed to call you. And then I called my friend Marcia, because she had like been watching my kids on and off this week. She was the one friend. I called her. So we went in Friday night, Saturday morning, like 6 a.m. I'm like, "Hey, I got rushed to Mass General in the middle of the night. Can you go pick up my kids so Matt can come down to Mass General?" And 20 minutes later, I get a text message, "We're here." And she had my kids, and she gave them the best day ever. Yeah. And Matt was able to come see me. And I'm like, you have to have a village. You have to have friends. They're all really important. Yeah. And every type of friend. But then I call Marcia, and I'm just like, "Marcia," I was like, "I might lose my daughter." I was like, "I don't want to lose her." And she just cried with me. She luckily was now at a mom's conference. So she had like this whole conference, like praying for me and my daughter. But I just remember just being like, all I could think about was losing her. And going into her room and packing up all her little clothes and having to tell like Sam and Brittany, how do you tell them that their sister isn't around? And then do I keep the crib up? Do I take the crib down? And wow, like it just seemed like so much. And I just remember, I'm like, part of me just has to walk out the worst case scenario. Like I just have to go there. I have to really feel it. I have to embrace it and just be like, okay. And I just remember telling the Lord, as I'm in the chapel now, I'm like looking up. I'm like, "Okay, God, you said if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can do all these amazing things." And like, I'm not really sure my faith is even as big as that. I'm pretty sure that my faith might be smaller than that. But if you'll take what I have, I'll give it to you. You'll take this little bit, you can have it. I said, "I just don't want to lose her. I'm just asking that you let me keep her." And I think in that moment, and then I just kind of was like, well, let's say that I do lose her and you do take her. I'm like, I guess what I need to tell you is that at the end of all that, even if you take her, I'll still praise you. You're still going to be my God. Wow. I'm never going to turn my back on you. You'll still be mine. And I will still seek you in all things. I'll still seek you. Amen. And I'll still worship you. And I think at that moment, when I just gave that all to him, all of a sudden I felt the peace and the faith. And he took my mustard seed. He took whatever it was and he did just grow it. And I could feel it growing and expanding. And I was like, okay, I'm ready. And I could go back to the room and I could look at my daughter and I could then, text my husband and be like, yeah, it was still the worst night I've ever had in my life. Like that by far is the worst night I've ever endured out of all the things in life. That was it.
I just want to pause. I want to pause us right here because there's just such a big anointing right now I'm feeling from what Ashley just said. that moment of saying, even if everything goes in the worst possible direction, I will still praise you. You will still be my God. The enemy is not going to steal my relationship with you or my trust that you are good.
Yeah.
And people, that right there is a miracle. That was Ashley's first miracle. That was God answering the first bit of her giving that little mustard seed, because God answers faith. And she had to say out of her mouth, this is not going to steal my relationship or my trust with Jesus. And I feel that there are some people that are watching or listening to this right now, and you are flirting on that line. Things have not gone the way you wanted. You did not get your prayer answered the way you wanted and felt like you needed to have it answered. You might be angry at God. You might be questioning everything. You might be thinking, Lord, I prayed. Where were you? Or maybe you're in the position Ashley was in, where you're facing something that, man, either a doctor or a lawyer or just your logic says, this is hopeless. If God doesn't do something, it's hopeless. I would just encourage you right now to hear that tool that Ashley just put in your hands. That tool of saying out of your mouth, it does not matter how this turns out.
Yeah.
According to my faith, I will trust you. But Lord, I don't want to lose my baby. And so for you, Lord, I need this. I want this. I'm crying out to you for this. And the Bible says that when we cry out to him, he hears us. But we also have to do exactly what Ashley just said. Lord, I surrender to you the result, the outcome.
Yeah.
And I'm determining before we take one more step that I am going to be faithful to you no matter what.
No matter what happens. Yeah.
That is huge. And I hope that you are hearing that, because that is a major, place of faith, putting your stake in the ground. We have to do that. You've got to put your stake in the ground and say, I am not yielding. I am not surrendering. Satan, I don't care what you throw at me. And I know that this is going to be a hard road. This isn't going to be a cakewalk. There's going to be some good times and there's going to be some really bad times on this road where I'm going to want to throw in the towel. I'm going to want to give up. So I'm putting my stake in the ground now in this crucible moment.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, I'm already making my decision how this is going to turn out.
Yep.
For my faith.
Yep.
So amazing. Well, guys, we are actually at the end of our time, and I'm going to leave you hanging. Oh, I know you probably hate me right now, and I'm so sorry. But we are going to continue the second part of this interview in part 2. And so I know you're already thinking, you're just mark your calendars now for when this podcast gets released, because I know you're thinking, I need to hear the rest of that story. I can't even believe you're going to cut us off right here. So before we sign off, I do want to invite you all to join the live Q&A and discussion between Ashley and I about how she repurposed her fear when it gets scheduled. So be keeping your eyes on my Instagram and my Facebook to see when Ashley and I are going to be doing this, because maybe you have questions about how fear impacts your life, or maybe you want to ask her, how did you do that? How did you surrender that when you just got a diagnosis that your baby is probably not going to make it? When they're saying that this is a rare and aggressive cancer and we don't really hold out any hope. How did you do that? So maybe you've been doing some of this work with God. Maybe you have a story where you have repurposed fear like this, and other people need to hear your story. We'd love to hear about that. So in our Q&A, you're going to have the opportunity to ask Ashley questions, to share your story. So make sure to join us and make sure to share the link for that live on your social media so that your friends and your followers can join you as well. But for now, I want to thank you our incredible tribe for being a part of today's podcast. As you know, the Repurpose Your Pain and the Higher Pursuit Ministries, we're here to help you and encourage you on your journey. So if anything you heard today blessed you, then let us know in the comments. And also be a conduit of blessing so other people can benefit. So I encourage you to share what you learned today with others, whether it's around the water cooler or in your neighborhood at PTA. Share those nuggets that you took from today, because when you share it, then you really own it. And also share on social media. And also, when you're just hanging out with your friends. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening to it, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, and make sure to join my email list on my website, higherpursuitministries.com, so you can receive my newsletter and my blog. And if you haven't already secured your copy of my book, Repurpose Your Pain, I'll put the Amazon link in the show notes below. And friends, as always, we are on this pursuit of more of Jesus together. That's spirit, soul, and body. None of us have arrived, but my goal for this podcast is always to offer you something nourishing that will strengthen, encourage, and challenge you as you pursue Jesus in your everyday and sometimes messy life. So until next time, may you walk in the favor of God, and I'll see you in the next podcast. Hey family, I pray that you were blessed and encouraged by that episode, and that you took away something you can use in your walk with the Lord starting today. Jesus tells us in Matthew 6 to seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness. So I thank you for making me a part of your pursuit. Until next time, abide in Him.